You're listening to Arin It Out, a podcast that inspires everyday people to lead with purpose in their careers, communities, and callings. I'm Arin Patterson, TEDx speaker, leadership strategist, and culture architect. I'm passionate about helping people discover their strengths, develop their skills, and do meaningful and fulfilling work. Through honest conversations and real reflections, we'll explore what it truly takes to lead well, not just in the work that you do, but in who you become. Because it's not about the title you wear, it's about the stretch, the setbacks, and the silent wins along the way. Are you ready to grow, lead, and leave your mark? If so, let's begin. Hello. I am Arin Patterson, and I'm so excited to be here today for episode 0 of Arin It Out. You know, this is something I've been planning for a very long time. I've had dreams of doing a podcast for years, and the idea to call it Arin It Out for years. And finally, right now in 2025, I'm pursuing one of the biggest dreams I've had for a very long time. So I'm very excited that you decided to join me here today. I've got a lot to share with you. Today is just about sharing my heart about the podcast before the official first episode launches. But today with episode 0, I just want to share some of the vision and some of the story that goes along with this podcast. And so if you've ever been in a space where you desire to lead or have been in spaces where you've questioned the leadership that you have seen from others and just have been like, there's got to be more to this. This podcast is for you. This podcast is for people who desire to be amazing leaders in the spaces that they lead in. Now, before we go any further, I would love to tell you about myself. I am a TEDx speaker. I had the opportunity to speak at TEDx UNC Charlotte this year on the topic Effective Leadership is TBD, where I discuss different leadership theories and how the behaviors play a huge and vital role into how leaders show up in the workplace. I'm also a leadership strategist and a lifelong learner. I currently serve in a leadership capacity at a local university here in Charlotte. I have a staff of about 120 in a couple of different areas overseeing operations for a very large facility. Not only that, I started my career as a middle school math teacher, and I loved being a teacher. But one thing that I realized early on is that teaching was not going to fill my cup long term. And so I was always looking for opportunities like, what can I do beyond the classroom? I eventually left the classroom and went into leadership roles and working in other places. But I do currently serve in higher ed on the student affairs side of things. Teaching in the classroom really laid the foundation for me learning how to lead well. I really learned a lot of the hard and the messy things leading middle schoolers. And I say all the time to people that once you become an adult, you are just a larger version of a middle schooler. And so a lot of the things, the techniques, the interactions that were effective or ineffective in my classroom are the same things that I see as effective as well as ineffective outside of the classroom. Not only that, I am currently working on a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology. And it's because I'm passionate about blending the art of leadership with the science of leadership. And so I'm learning a lot of things that are going to help me in the long run in leading people. But more than a title and more than a degree, I have lived these stories. One reason I decided to pursue the degree I'm working on now in IO psychology is because I recognize that there's things that are happening in the workplace that need to be addressed, that need to be cared for. And so this is all of this kind of just ties into things I've been thinking about. And, you know, a lot of times we interact with leaders and managers and supervisors in spaces, and we ask the question, who taught you this? Who told you this? Where did you learn this from? And so that came up a lot in the work that I did. And so I'm just very passionate about helping leaders to become the very best leaders that they can. And this is a lot of where the focus and the foundation of this podcast, and, you know, count how many times I say podcast during this podcast. But that's a huge foundation of me even starting this. Now, there's a story I love to share in regards to how I even got into leadership and a little bit of the foundation. Several years ago, while attending my brother's college graduation, I learned an extremely valuable lesson about leadership. After the ceremony ended, my family and I headed back to the car ready to leave campus. But we encountered a problem. The parking lot was packed and traffic was barely moving. As we sat there waiting, we finally realized that traffic was moving ridiculously slow because there was no one directing it. My family and I started saying things like, there should be someone to direct traffic after such a large event. And it's so common for us to notice problems and immediately point out what someone else should be doing to fix it. But as I sat in the car going absolutely nowhere, I had a choice. I could keep complaining about the traffic and the delay, or I could do something about it. And honestly, at this rate, we weren't leaving campus anytime soon. Without much hesitation, I got out of the car, walked to the source of the congestion, and started directing traffic with no vest, no badge, and no fear. Now, did I have technical experience with directing traffic? Not exactly, but I'd watched enough movies in my life to have an idea. And that's when I began to understand the essence of leadership on a more practical level, all because of what I like to refer to as graduation gridlock. Since that moment, I've been intentional about seeking opportunities to lead both in my career and in my community, and teaching others to lead effectively. This all happened about 10 years ago, and this situation has single-handedly contributed to how I show up in life and leadership. There's certainly a formal side to leadership, which includes like fancy titles, the director roles that we all hope to get, for those of us who serve in more of corporate settings, high salaries, and widespread influence. But what I learned that day is that most people don't start there. At some point in our lives, we're faced with a situation or a challenge that stretches us and requires a version of us that we've never even seen before. At this point, at Graduation Gridlock, I'd led in the classroom, I'd led in community organizations, and in the context of my friend groups. But that day, I was willing to see just how far my influence could go. And not just for my benefit, but for the benefit of hundreds of families that were stuck in that parking lot. Graduation Gridlock for many years was just this funny story that my family talked about, and my sister just happened to get a picture. She was so far away, but she zoomed in, and so for people who knew me back in the day, I used to wear a huge bun on the top of my head, like my hair, but in a bun on the top of my head. And so she has this picture of this, and we used to just randomly send it out and say, oh my gosh, do you remember when? And it was just a funny story for a very long time, but it's now developed into one of those stories that I love to share with employees and people that I come into contact with, because it's really a huge marker in my leadership journey. And I recognize that this is part of my origin story. I share this story to demonstrate that leadership for me has never solely been about personal advancement, but I see it as an opportunity to lead others well, which has been a driving force in my life and in my career. I had an opportunity about 7 years ago to do a speech entitled Imagine, Inspire, Influence when I lived in Florida. And in that speech, I talked about how I always just wanted to use my influence for good. And so for me, leadership is an opportunity to use that influence for good. Regardless of what I'm doing, wherever I go, I want to influence people in a way that's going to benefit their lives. And my hope in sharing that story is that people who hear that have a few takeaways. That one, that they recognize about me and my leadership is that I know how to respond under pressure. That when things get tight, when things get hard, or whatever the case may be, that I know how to respond, and I'm going to respond quickly and appropriately to the needs of those that I lead. I think second, I want people to recognize the need as well as the importance of, obviously, people have job roles and responsibilities and duties, and those things are important and necessary. But as it relates to me as a leader, I want people to recognize that I have no problem stepping in where gaps exist. That if it benefits my team, if it benefits clients that I have, if it benefits the greater good of humanity, I'm willing to step in where I'm needed, even if it feels like a place that I don't necessarily belong or is not necessarily my best or strongest skill. And third, I really believe that this story points to a personality trait of mine, of that is I'm open to experience. this was something I had never done before. I had never hopped out of a car in traffic and said, I'm going to direct traffic. Now, granted, this was not like on a major highway, but still, this was a very large parking lot with hundreds of cars around. This was the end of a college graduation ceremony, so there were a lot of people around. But not having done it was not a reason for me to not try to do it. And that was the mindset I had that day when I got out of the car. And part of it is like, I like to be funny and silly, but the other part is I actually see opportunity here. And for me, that was an opportunity to address the needs of the people around me. And that is a real life, real situation. Obviously, this is an audio podcast only right now, but one day I will show you all the picture of me directing traffic. And this podcast, Airing It Out, it is for real life people, real life leaders. I do not believe in just talking about the aspirational things, though anyone who knows me knows that I'm a very positive person. It's who I am by nature, but I also understand the need to talk about real life situations. And this podcast is going to give us the opportunity to do that. There are going to be conversations that are rooted in real stories. So I have every intention of sharing things from my personal work experience, from my personal life experience, that I believe will benefit you, whether it's specifically leadership related or lessons that I've learned from stories or solutions that I've found to work for me. I'm going to share those things. I hope to blend a little bit of practical strategy with some of the psychology of leadership, some of the things that I have been learning, not only through this program, master's program that I'm in, but things that I've been learning over the years. And I will have some solo episodes where I'm just talking about things and teaching you guys things that I would share in a workshop type of setting or a conversation that I may have with a mentee or with an employee. But I also intend on having some people come on as guests. I've got friends in a lot of different industries, and so you'll hear from some people in the education space. You'll hear for some people who are in the counseling space. You'll hear from people in business settings, in faith and community settings, nonprofit, all the different areas that I believe that there can be takeaways from. You will hear from people in those spaces. And I desire for my content to be smart, for it to be thoughtful, for it to be something that activates something on the inside of you, to say that I can do better, I can be better, I can be better for myself, I can be better for the people that I lead. And that is the heart of this podcast. New episodes will be released every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern during the season. So during the course of the season, you can expect anywhere from 10 to 12 episodes. That does not include today's episode, episode 0. So beyond today, you can expect at least 10 episodes during this first season. The runtime is going to be anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. I want it to be digestible during your car ride to work or while you're sitting in the office, long enough to talk about some heavy and important topics, but short enough just to fit into your life. And I mentioned before, there will be some solo episodes. There's going to be some episodes where I interview dynamic leaders in different fields, and sometimes just an occasional question and answer session. As I get questions on LinkedIn and through YouTube and from my email list, I'll just have question and answer sessions. And you can expect this to be an authentic space. I want it to be a space where you could imagine me sitting in your living room with you or sitting in your office having conversations about the real things that are going on. And just a quick heads up, if you haven't noticed, I talk fast, like really fast, unintentionally, but I believe it works well for this setting. So you don't have to play me at 1.5 speed. That's one thing when I listen to podcasts, I typically listen at 1.5 or 1.75 because I feel like sometimes people talk too slow. And so you may end up having to slow me down, and that's okay. That's the amazing thing about technology. So just hit play and you'll be ready to go with me. And this isn't about perfection. It's all about purpose. I'm here for the kind of leadership that transforms culture and brings people up to a new level. And I do not think that happens in a space of perfection, but I do think it happens in a place of authenticity. Here's what I need for you to do. If you haven't already done so, I need you to follow me, whether it's on the Spotify app, on Apple Podcast or YouTube. Follow me so that every single time I post an episode, you're aware. And not only that, but it helps to grow my followers. Right now, I think I have a really cool and amazing community in the city of Charlotte that I live in right now. But I'm hoping for this podcast to go beyond just my current circle, my current sphere of influence, and to other people. And by you clicking follow or you subscribing, that will help me to grow my followership. And I would love for you to share this episode with a friend who's trying to lead well in their life, regardless of whatever age they are, whatever stage of life they are. Share this podcast with them and let them know that they can find me on LinkedIn specifically, as well as YouTube at Arin Patterson. That's ARIN Patterson on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. I want to hear from you. Please let me know if you have lessons or questions of your own. You can send them to me on LinkedIn, write them on the comments of YouTube. And you might just hear a story of yours on a future episode if it ties in with the topic that we're going with. Here's what I know to be true. Leadership doesn't start with a title. It starts with a decision to show up, a decision to take responsibility, a decision to grow. And whether you lead a team in a corporate setting, lead in a classroom, or somewhere in your community, or if you're just leading yourself, this is the place to be. Airing it out, talking about leadership, life, and lessons. This is the place to be. We talk about leadership and leading on purpose and with purpose. And episode 1, it's coming very soon. I cannot wait to share it with you all. We're going to be diving into leadership. We're going to talk about the foundation of leadership. And so I'm looking forward to you all having an opportunity to listen coming up Tuesday at 10 a.m. every Tuesday for the next couple of weeks. We're going to have some time together. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys and being able to share my story with you all. Thank you so much for joining me today for episode 0 of Airing It Out. Have a great day.